Good morning or good afternoon to everyone joining us today. Welcome to our exclusive webinar, Your Business AI Powered in an Hour with Sparx, brought to you in a partnership with Chasm Labs and AI Squared. We're thrilled to have you with us today as we introduce Sparx, a new way to unify business data and get instant answers to complex questions. Over the next hour, you'll hear from leaders who have shaped enterprise technology at scale and who are now driving innovation in how businesses harness AI. So it's my honor to first introduce Steve Bratton, Chief Architect at Chasm Labs, who is focused on expanding on the art of the possible. Steve brings an extraordinary depth of experience to enterprise technology architecture, and he spent nearly 22 years at Cisco, where he evolved from systems engineer to solutions architect, ultimately leading diverse teams spanning UI development to large-scale architecture. Next, I am pleased to introduce Raghu Bhatte, our Field Technology Officer here at AI Squared. Raghu brings over 2 decades of enterprise technology leadership to our team, and his expertise spans the entire spectrum of modern business technology. Before joining AI Squared, Raghu spent over 6 years at Zadita, where he built the foundation for edge computing at scale. And as field CTO and VP of product management, he guided Fortune 500 companies through their edge strategy, securing major enterprises wins across oil, gas, renewable energy, and telecom industries. Steve and Raghu will walk you through Sparx's capabilities, demonstrate in real world scenarios, and show you exactly how your organization can go from data silos to actionable insights in record time. So we'll reserve some time for questions because we know every organization has unique requirements and challenges. So feel free to post your questions in the chat or just raise your hand. But Steve, I will hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sophia. So quick question for everyone just to get us started. Like in any given day, you can, if you're using some tool, you're looking for some information internally, and you realize that the tool or the system you're on doesn't have the information you need. And this is the world that we've come from, we've lived in for a long time. I worked at a couple of really large hardware manufacturers over the years, for example, and in a large company like that, there's tens of systems, there's data spread out everywhere, and you're looking for something, and it's your internal enterprise data. It's not like you can go to Google or something and search for the stuff. I mean, it's your internal data, and you have no idea where it is, and maybe it's spread out across all kinds of different kind of systems. I had all kinds of problems just searching for bug reports, which seems like it should be ridiculously simple, but it's just not. Product specs for products you're building, so it's not like product documentation that you'd find on the internet. It's internal to your system, and the specs can be spread out all over the place. You might need internal financial information. How much does a component cost for something you're building? And oddly enough, that stuff is also spread around all over the place. And putting together any kind of cost model, like cost trending, that sort of thing, it takes a gigantic, monumental effort to put it all together. So is there another way than just, because like internal search tools are only so good. Is there another way? Well, it turns out there is another way. And funny enough, I mentioned big companies, but we're a small outfit here at Chasm, and we have this issue. Just yesterday, we were in a meeting, and we were talking about, hey, well, okay, so where is that? Okay, where do I look? Okay, which one is it? Okay, we've got to solve this problem. So now, speaking of Chasm, just to introduce you to Chasm, many of you may be familiar with Chasm, or what we used to be called the 5G Open Innovation Lab. From 2020 or so, the 5G Open Innovation Lab is taking what we would like to think of as the best and brightest of all the startups out there, and bringing them together with large enterprise who is seeking to enable. And effectively, if you think about the corporate world, and those of you who've worked in the corporate world, you'll know that it's ridiculously hard in a corporate world, sort of ironic, to actually innovate. And so you've got so many fences and barriers and bureaucracy and so forth. And so you say, well, gosh, I'll look out into the startup community to find somebody who can help me. But there's a lot of noise out there, of course. And then as a startup, you're out there and you are part of the noise, and you're trying to elevate yourself above the noise to get noticed. And so that's what we do here at Chasm. That was the core mission of the 5G Open Innovation Lab. And over time, we've also developed a few solutions. We have a thing called the Chasm Enterprise Edge Network, for example, which is a private 5G solution. And so with that evolution, we've had an evolution of the name, and so we are now called Chasm. For those who might wonder about the name change, that's where that comes from. Um, my name again is Steve Broughton. I'm the chief architect here at Chasm Labs, and I've been focusing mostly on edge networking scenarios. Sounds familiar, right, Raghu? Um, and then of course the intersection with AI. Having joined Chasm recently is actually kind of central to the story. I've been following the 5G lab for several years, but I joined formally just a few months ago. And so I joined the lab, and oh my goodness, I'm supposed to understand all of the startup programs that have gone through the 5G Open Innovation Lab. And there's this wall behind me, if you can see it, wrong hand. Below all these logos are every single logo of every startup that's been through the program is on the wall. And there's like 150 of them now. And so now I'm supposed to understand what all these do. So how do I go about do that? Stare at the wall? Pull out Google? Well, um, the good news is Chasm has a thing called the portal, which I'd like to share right now. Um, let's make sure I'm rocking and rolling here. There we go. I'm gonna bring up the portal. So rather than look at a wall of logos, I can actually look at the the portal, and I can scroll through and check out each and every startup that's been through the program. Again, there's 150. They're all arranged in alphabetical order here. And if I want to learn more about one of the startups, I can take a look at it. Now, conveniently, since it's alphabetical, AI squared, let's look at AI squared really quick. Here we are. I want to know more about AI squared, and so I can see, oh wow, here's the market, here's the solution. There may be this what's going on in the lab. There are tabs here for media, podcasts, or videos. There's an engagement tracker for activities here in the lab. There's a file folder. You could put a pitch deck or product documentation or whatever you want in here. So this is a really nice little form factor of information. It's fairly easy to consume one at a time. Uh, that can give you an idea of what is it, what do they do, and where are they going. Now, that's all really well and great when you're talking about one, but what about 150? So if I wanted to research all 150, I could sit here and read through all of this, but of course, then I would end up conflating everything and not remembering and oh which one was which and whatever, and it's not really meaningful. And I could probably get creative with Google and ChatGPT and so forth and kind of figure things out. But that again is going to take a long time. And honestly, I just have some point questions that I want to ask. So if I have a specific question about what is effectively my set of enterprise data here. So inside the portal, this is what I would call semi-public information. There's some information that's public for everybody. There's some semi-sensitive stuff in here which is not intended for the public. You actually have to sign into this thing. It needs credentials. So what if I'm looking for something specific um, in my enterprise data here? I'm looking at a needle in a haystack scenario. It's even here. An example might be when I first started. I said, well, I see that we're building a product that might leverage an SLM. Of the alumni, is there who works with SLMs, who supports SLMs, is what is that? How do I even approach this? Even with the portal here, going through 150 might be kind of hard. So is there a better way? And the answer, of course, is yes. We deployed an AI squared chatbot. The chatbot is down. Hopefully, you can see my mouse. It's down the lower right. It's set up like any other chatbot that you might have encountered, but this one's special because this one's going to take a look at our enterprise data. And a little segue on the chatbot, by the way. The button here and the pop-up. It for us in our web page, it is effectively, it's something like 10 lines of JavaScript, and it took us less than a minute to put this in. Now we had to go back and take like 1 or 2 minutes more later to change one of the parameters to make sure, to point it to the right place. But the point is, we were actually just on a call and we did it in like a minute. It's ridiculously easy, and this is a recurring theme that I'll come back to. Um, but it looks like a chatbot, and it takes an AI prompt, and using my scenario about the SLM when I first started, I was like, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to figure this out? It would have been nice on that day, because we did not have this that day, to be able to say something like, well, gosh, of the Chasm startups, um, are there, and this is a really simple prompt, by the way, are there any um, small language model solutions? Now, you could say to yourself, my goodness, Steve, that is a very simple query, but I use it because it was a real query. It was a real situation that I was faced with. And it did actually take me a little bit to figure out, to be honest with you. Whereas right now, we just put in this little question, and the query has gone against my again, this is my enterprise data. If I would have said what are the SLM solutions to Google or some other platform, I would have gotten, how many answers. But this is very, very specific to my environment. And it looks like I've got two answers here. One which is RC, small. In fact, the first one is exactly what I'm looking for. I only have one other answer here, Liquid AI, which is a great solution, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. And bam, just like that, 150 down to one. And I mean, I can't think of a more perfect, situation. It's ridiculously simple. It is game changing. And I use the very, very simple example here simply because it was so game changing. And that's it. I hesitate to stop here, but it's really that simple. 150 to 1 in seconds. Now, I mentioned that the JavaScript took us a couple of minutes, but it's actually the story gets better than that. When we first started this effort, we talked about, hey, would we be interested in doing this? And yeah, let's get this set up. And so we got my lead engineer involved, and we said, okay, what all is involved? So there's the JavaScript, took us a minute, and then we needed to point the data sources. So this is the hardest part. This is like to make sure that AI squared has all of the relevant enterprise data that you're dealing with. And for us, it was actually fairly easy to package up. We package it up, we send out credentials, and I think between the lead engineer and me, collectively, we put in 1 hour to get this thing up. Now, I don't mean to say that we're done. Because there's work to be done to make it better and to fine tune it, make sure it's learning all the appropriate things and so forth. But the point was that we actually had something to test against after an hour's worth of work. And this is really, really, really important. The other piece of it was we did not want to deploy our own infrastructure. The We did, in fact, and I don't know if we told you this, Argu, but we looked at rolling our own very early in the process. Could we roll our own, and what would be involved in that? And just from the people, process, tools perspective, it was onerous. There's no way our little unit is going to take this on. So we needed to be able to do it without an infrastructure build, and AI squared is absolutely perfect for us. It was an hour of work to get started, no infrastructure. Um, and we're done. This is a best case scenario for me as a user. This is a best case scenario. Like I said, we're not done. We need to make it robust. For those of you who might have access to the portal, by the way, if you're watching this and do have access to the portal, this will go live. I think Sophie mentioned it will go live on our production site in the next couple of days. Um, I will ask for your patience. We are still building it up, but the cool part here is we would ask that if you get onto the system and you take a look, exercise the chatbot, and if it gives you a weird answer, the wrong answer, or no answer, please use the feedback button because that will help us out. It'll help AI squared out. It'll help us out. in terms of making the solution more robust. And with that, I just want to thank Darren Ragu, and the broader team at AI Squared. Stefan for sure, Ian, Tom. The team has been great to work with, very responsive. It's been a fantastic user experience. So thanks, team.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I have a few things I wanted to talk about today, but I can't miss this opportunity to talk a little bit more about your experience, right? Like, okay, Steve made it sound like, oh, he just asked us for like a couple of things and then boom, we delivered it. We did, but it was not a couple of things, right? And it should never be a couple of things too, because like Steve wanted to get the right experience for his users. And especially if these users are external to Chasm, you want to be very, very careful about like what you present. You don't want any of your semi-sensitive information to be available to public. You really do not want any half information or like partial information to be like provided without any context given to that. All of those things come into picture and say was okay, this is the internal data, but I want to augment it with the external data too, which is I don't want the all of the world because it's the same thing, right? Like it's very hard to go from 150 to 1 in immediately if you are looking at the whole wide spectrum, especially when it comes to AI and models nowadays. Like every corner, every street corner, there are three companies that do that. So what we had to do was like not only look at the information that is present with Steve inside Chasm's enterprise, but we also had to go out and grab information that is available on the external websites, but only those 150 external websites that Steve was talking about, right? So now we had to gather all that information and put it back into a place where now we can create context both from the internal data and external data. And the second portion of that is like this data is dynamic. Both Steve's internal data, the portal is changing on a daily basis because new entrants are coming in, new content is being added. But on the external side, that is even more, right? Like everyone is doing things to like add more contents, add more documents. So now all of those things have to be consumed and they have to be consumed on a timely basis. So what we have created, and this is part of the AI Squared's platform, is a way to like grab all that information, whether it is based out of documents or whether it is based out of websites, and create a sync and create that periodic cadence where like you can say go and like check it out every minute. Thankfully Steve did not say that, but like okay, we do it on a daily basis where like we go and crawl all these websites, get all the latest information, and then create that database so that when a user of Chasm or when Steve like goes in and asks a question, they're getting the best but also the latest information, which is equally important because one of the big problems that we see, not just at Chasm, but like in all the other places, is the sprawl of the stale information. There are so many versions of that same information available. Now you are not really sure whether you are getting V1 or V10. And is V10 the latest one? Is that the one that I really want? So those are all the kind of problems we had to solve, along with how do we solve the data issues? How do we solve the user issues, right? Like, okay, when I log in, I should be able to see the information because I'm allowed to log in and see that information. But like if my colleague at AI Squared logs in who doesn't have access to this same portal, then they should not be able to see that information. And in the future, it is not done yet, but like in the future, when it is fully in production, external users who might not be having a login into the portal might also exercise it. So they should never see the semi sensitive information, but they should still be able to exercise the other data. So those are all the kind of things that we put into this chatbot. And it might look simple, and it is simple. The reason why it is simple is because like we have it as part of our platform. We did not build it for Chasm, like it is part of a platform. We did get a lot of valuable feedback from Steve and team, that helped us improve our product and the platform. But because we had something to start with, it was so much easier. And talking about feedback, one of the big things of our platform when we created is to gather the feedback. And it is not about a model, it is not about an entity, right? It is a product that is going out. The chatbot is a product. It serves a purpose. It has value. And when the users look at it, and if they see that the value is not the same as what they expected, they usually want to give you feedback. And it can be as simple as, hey, I don't like the color of the screen. To, hey, this is not very accurate, or it is taking too long to give me an answer. All of those things, right? So what we did is like we took feedback to a different level. Rather than getting feedback on models themselves, we are getting feedback on the applications. So anyway, so I I digress, but like this was a great opportunity, great setup, Steve. Thanks for that. To talk, at least for me to talk about that. Um, what I really want to talk about today is about AI squared, and about Sparx, and why we came out with Sparx. What does it serve? What is the difference between Sparx and AI squared? Is there a difference? All of those questions. And then I want to also end with a very quick demo of another version of Sparx, which is not a chatbot, but is also a chatbot. Okay, so let's get into that one. First, AI squared. A Squared is around like a 4.5 year old company. It is founded out of NSA. There was a need where there is a lot of AI assets that are being generated, but they are sitting on the shelves because there was no real easy way of taking it to production. And the operative word here is easy. There is a way. Okay, we have been doing it for decades. Not to date myself, but I've been doing it for 2 decades myself. Right? Like, okay, there is a way, but can you do that very easily? And can you do that without getting half of the team involved and take sucking up their time, which is very, very important because when you're dealing with limited resources, you need to be able to like do almost a self-serve kind of a thing. And that is how we envision how AI squared will help people. That is our charter. Even our tagline is like bringing AI to where work happens, infusing AI into your legacy systems, into your current workflows, and creating new workflows too, right? That is what we really set out to do. And we were lucky enough to have like world-class investors back us. We are a venture-backed company. NEA, one of the largest VCs out there, believes in us and like had invested heavily in us, along with ANSA and others. And as you could have guessed, like starting out from from NSA, we have developed a very deep traction in the defense tech space. Everything from all the three-letter acronyms that you can think of in the DoD space, and other large entities that are using us or you want to use us to solve their problems. And one of the big things that we have achieved is our ability to be part of Advana program. Advana is a program that is where you are going to have the DoD has created a conglomerate or a platform where they want to bring all the latest technology into it and then help all of the other organizations to now go in and exercise that technology to build their own assets. What happens with this is like not everyone is coming up with their own architecture, so you don't have like this architecture sprawls, you don't have these solution sprawls all over the place, and that gives a first of all a great buying power for our government and all the optimizations that are needed. But on top of that, it also like normalizes and standardizes the way things are done, so that like one aspect, if I am in one of the organizations and I have created an asset, then that can be very easily used in another organization too. Okay, so those are the kind of things that we help, and but we started there in the DoD or the federal organization. But since then, like we have moved out of that, or actually, I shouldn't say moved out. We have expanded out of federal to other verticals like finance, supply chain, and healthcare. All these big, large enterprises, like I have sold to in my life throughout my careers at Cisco, Juniper, and in my previous startups, including Zedida, which Sophia called out earlier, right? So that is a play where like you are now going in trying to like sell your platform to make them very I mean make lives of the people in these large organizations easy so that they can carry on their mission. They can go build the next best thing for their customers. And this is a motion that I have done a long time. And there is I for me like I love this, right? Like it is you can see change happen, you can see like the value being created, and there is nothing better than that. Uh, and we have done all different types of our deployments too. Steve was talking about taking all of the t- not having to invest in infrastructure, right? So like it's like 10 lines of code, plug it in, and like boom, you have your solution. Okay, so the way we do that is because like ours is a SaaS, again, like all you can think of from a mature SaaS company, right? Like isolation, security, auditing, visibility, all of those things. A SaaS solution that people can come into. But a lot of our large companies, large enterprises say like, okay, this is going against our security principles and like our security confirmation. So what we also support is a way to deploy it is in their VPCs. Sometimes we deploy it on-prem. Again, like if we are talking about the three-letter organizations, you should be able to do that. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Right? So we have all of this. Now, one thing we have noticed is that this platform, which we call Unify, which makes it very, very easy to change the way you work on these AI assets and bring them to production, is really suitable for very large organizations. And when we start going into smaller organizations, that is where like we saw a very big gap and also something of almost a call for action, because we go to small organizations and they tell us, hey, I know ChatGPT can do this. I want to be able to do the same thing with my data. I want to be able to like create agents and like set them free, and then they will do all the work for me, kind of a thing, right? Okay. And they come to us and say, can you do it for us? And I'm like, what do you mean, can you do it for us? Here is a platform, go exercise it and then build. We will teach you how to build, and then like next time onwards it's yours. So like you don't have to like come back to us, you don't have to pay service fees, all of those kind of things, right? And they're like, no, that is not the world I live in. I don't have a data scientist on board. I don't have a data engineer on board. Okay, if you ask anyone other than a couple of people in the company, okay, go to Google Suite, they wouldn't know that. All they know is email and docs, right? Like those are the kind of companies that are there. Again, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but as you can see, it spans the whole spectrum. Like you have these large companies with armies of data scientists and data engineers, and then you have this other companies which are mid-sized enterprises which want to do that. They have one or two people on board, but like they cannot actually afford to have those armies. And then they have the third section, which is like they don't have any, right? And what we saw was both an opportunity to create a product that can be completely out of the box, where these smaller and mid-sized companies can take it and not have to worry about like, okay, how do I package it? How do I build it? And all of these things, right? It's easy. You tell AI squared, okay, these are the 3 places or 10 places that I have my data. This is the output I want. I want tomorrow somebody is going to come in and say like, okay, I have my data in 3 places. I want what Steve has, right? That's what it is going to be. And we should be able to like immediately do that, or they should be able to immediately do it by themselves without being a data scientist or a data engineer. And that is the genesis for Sparx for us. Okay, so what we wanted to do is make it very, very simple, make AI easy to be consumed by smaller organizations, so that now they don't have to like hire a whole bunch of folks to bring out that value, because hiring a whole bunch of folks will diminish the ROI to a point where they cannot start. Okay, so it might be in 10 years from now, you will get the returns on your investment, but in the first 1 or 2 years, you won't. Because if you have to hire a group of people to do something, and if the value is not more than what it costs for the headcount, then that is going to be a problem. But the other side, which is a call for action for us, is also very important, is that we are in this space. I mean, this is once in a lifetime opportunity to be in a space which is expanding like what AI is doing. But then we also see that large companies can take advantage of AI, but smaller companies are at a disadvantage because they cannot actually take advantage of AI unless they invest heavily. And without investing heavily, they are going to be at a disadvantage to a point that it becomes the existential crisis after a certain point. Because if a large company is giving you like a whole bunch of features and like making your life easy, making it very intuitive, and it's also a shiny toy that everyone wants to tell their friends that like I used it. And if a smaller company cannot do that, then they are at a disadvantage. They are at a business disadvantage, right? So what we also wanted to do was democratize AI so that like we can actually offer similar kind of experience to smaller companies too. Again, it is going to be limited. It is not that like you can do replicate what like a thousand people team at a very large financial company can do. Oh, but at the same time, you don't have all the same needs too. Okay. Now, talking about needs, you might not have all the same needs, but there are a few things that are uh, basic and that are like really at the core of it, right? First of all, you need to see value out of your data. Okay. That's the moat you have created, and like you need to see that. But it should not come at the cost of privacy. It should not come at the cost of security. It should not come at the cost of investing tremendous amount of energy and resources into infrastructure to do that. So that is what like we have thought about, and we have taken all the knowledge that we have gathered out of Unify and then applied it back to Sparx, where like all the security, the basic minimum things that you need to make this work are available to you. So that is Sparx. Okay, Sparx is a AI solution where you can bring AI to your workplace. You can do it uh, without worrying about whether do I have enough security, is the data leaking, do people have the correct people have correct access, all of those things packaged together along with the solution. Now what Steve showed you is a chatbot that can like actually go into the wild, gather all the relevant information, but more importantly all the information that Steve, as the owner of the chatbot, had told have given permissions to do, and then create a vector database, put a RAG in place, all of these things in the background. This all happened in that 1 hour that Steve was talking about, right? Like, okay, so it can do all of that and then give you an experience of like, okay, how do I now become an expert in the first 1 hour of me joining Chasm? I don't need 100 people to mentor me and like go over that, especially when it comes to like information that I could go ahead and like learn by myself, right? There's obviously like the skill and art portion of being in an organization like Chasm that you are going to learn from others or like you bring to the table to begin with. But there are other areas that you don't need to, and that is where like it helped you. Now, we have other examples of this one too, where like not only did they come in and say, hey, we want to like be able to like go out and like get information about the documents or like our customers or our competitors in sometimes, right? But it is they've also like a lot of people have asked, we have like some simple financial tools, okay, QuickBooks for example, or NetSuite and others, right? And this is the size of the company too. Okay, we have these financial tools. I have all my finances in there, and like we have an accountant, we have a controller, but if I want to know something, then I have to go to them. And most of these smaller companies, they don't have them full time on board. They are only partially right. They're a partial employee because they don't really need them full time. And there is a lag in the time you need some information and you go ask somebody else who is not part full time on your in your company. By the time they respond back, there is a lot of lag, and sometimes that delay makes that information that you get back not very usable, because like you need to make a decision and you need to make a decision now. So that is one thing. But also in terms of planning, in terms of tracking, in terms of new different ways of doing it, there are also a lot of people asking us that for a solution like that. And what I'm going to show you in a minute is just that. This is a very simple example. I have like obfuscated a lot of data here because we have actually done it for few of our customers already. What I'm going to show you is like synthetic data, but it will give you an idea of like what kind of things can be done as part of Sparx. Again, I do want to call it Sparx version 1. I will talk about version 2 and beyond once I quickly share my screen here. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here. Okay, perfect. So the story here is that like I'm a small business owner or I'm a mid-sized enterprise, and I just want to know I am either at a position where I need this information, or I'm one of the execs where like I want to make some decisions and I just want information right now, right? Like very quickly. So I go in and I ask, hey, list me all my customers. And by the way, this is a chatbot here. Okay, so I was not going to go through the whole cycle here. Like, so I quickly did some things. List me all my customers, and like not only did it give me all the customers back, but it also gave me a summary of it, saying that like, hey, these are the customers you have. The balances range from X to Y, and a little bit more information about this, right? I mean, this is nice, but like when I say list me all my customers, like I don't expect a graph, right? I want a list, and then I say, okay, list me all my customers and display them in a table, and like now I have like all the information that I need from my customers. And we got it to a point where like now this is an Excel sheet in front of you, or like this is a table in front of you, and like you can now start playing with it, both in terms of like, okay, what are the balances, what are the hoof, I mean, sorting. This is all table stakes at this point. Again, like these are nice things to show, but like if anyone is showing you things and if these kind of functionality is not there, then that is, I mean, that's half baked at best. So this is all table stakes, but like all of these things are part of like what your experience is going to be. And then afterwards, the other thing is like, okay, I want to be able to copy this file or like this table and like present it to somebody, send it out in an email, or I want to export it completely as a CSV file, or I want to give feedback. I want to say like, okay, this is not great information. I needed other type of information, right? Or I want to say like, okay, this is a great information. You can provide feedback. And this feedback is in itself not just for that particular, but like it also has to take into account what I did before to get to that point, right? So like this is the feedback that we are talking about, or Steve was talking about earlier. Not only will it actually give you a feedback in terms of like what is that actual message that was asked, the query that was made, what is the message you got, what is the history, but also in terms of like, okay, what is the feedback in terms of the full end-to-end user experience? Because most of the times people who are exercising that, they get used to it so much that they don't even realize that there is a model behind it. There are other things, right? Like it's a chatbot. I ask it a question, it gives me an answer. It's like my kid saying, hey, I don't have Wi-Fi on my phone. Okay, I don't have data on my phone, right? Like, okay, that's all they say. Like, I mean, okay, did you turn it on? No. Okay, why did you not turn it on? Because I don't have to. It should just work. Okay, that's the experience people are going to get to very, very quickly. Now, you can do a lot of other things. Now I want to know, okay, list me the invoices, but like I also want all of this information. I mean, this used to take people, either they need to be an expert in finances, and if you're not expert in finances, you should have like a working knowledge of the tool, and also be able to know what exactly you are looking for, and be able to now export that tool into an Excel, create tables, create pivot charts, all of these kind of things. Now it's at your fingertips. And this is the power of Sparx, right? It is not about saying, hey, did it work or not? It is not about like the technology, it is about the value you provide immediately. And now people can look at it and say like, oh, I think this is such and such, this is good, right? And by the way, I was trying this, and like we had a few bumps in terms of my internet. I was just talking about this just before the just before the webinar started. And I was like looking at it, and then like now you go back and say like, okay, I want all the list of the customers now with the invoices because I want to make a decision. So what I'm trying to show you is like how do decisions get made in real life, and how can this help do the same thing. Now I got all of this information. Now I want to look at like, okay, who are my top five uh, uh, companies that are that have like outstanding invoices, right? And then like I want them now show me all of the things that are there, and the list can, and these type of questions can go on and on. At the end of the day, what is going to happen is that like the information that is now with or siloed in like one group or one part of the organization is now available to everyone, and they can immediately start acting on it, or at least if not making decisions. I wouldn't myself, like I wouldn't recommend people taking this and doing taxes with it, at least not yet. But this gets you from 0 to 6 7, where 10 is taxes, right? Okay, so like you get there, and over a period of time it can go to 10, and with the help of our customers we are definitely going there. Actually, they are forcing us to go there, right? And this is done in-house, this is done with partnerships with others, and all the above. So this is Sparks 1.0, along with what Steve showed, along with what I just showed. Now we are not stopping here. One of the first things that I got and like is that, hey, I gave you my QuickBooks data, and you're showing me all these cool charts and like asking questions and everything, but I don't think that is AI. People are okay, the AI might be in terms of like how you are asking, how it is answering, but the actual intelligence is not there. I mean, you are just replicating what a Power BI tool can do, or a BI tool can do, or somebody with a lot of knowledge about the that financial tool can do. Give me something that I could never get. That's the first question I got. And the thing is, like, you have all my data. Tell me where I'm going wrong. You have all my data. Tell me predicting 6 months down the lane. Can you tell me whether I'll have enough operating income or enough cash balance to support my operating expenses, right? Those are the kind of questions people are really interested in, and we are getting there. And that is one version two. And that's not the only portion. There are other things that people want, is like they really don't want and go and ask questions, because you should first of all have the knowledge to ask questions to get the right answers. What they really want is their data to tell them answers, and say like, okay, I have all of this. Send me an email in the morning saying that, hey, Raghu, you need to take care of this and such and such and such. So such and such person did not actually pay their invoices, and they have been due for a very long time, or like your inventories are very low, and like I see a lot of demand for that in other places. So can you do this? So all of these kind of things are things we are doing. Again, going back into the workflows and the actual tech side of it, not only chatbots, but like predictions and workflows, where this is fully automated workflows, which can actually do things for you. And that would be part of Sparks version 2 and beyond, right? So at the end of the day, we don't want to boil the ocean. We want to do those small incremental steps that help organizations to go from where they are. Small incremental steps, right? But like in the right direction, providing them enough information, and providing them uh, enough value, so that they can start investing in it. They can start investing in it. They see that small value, and the cost of like getting that value is also small. So now there is a return of investment, and it is all about return of investment. I mean, we can slice and dice it in a whole different ways in terms of, hey, am I having the infrastructure? Who is managing the infrastructure? What is my power cost? All of these things. But at the end of the day, if your investment is small, and if your ROI in the short term is larger than your investment, that is a win. And that is what Sparks is. Okay. Hopefully this helped. Sophia, I will turn it back to you. Oh, I think we have 15 more minutes. I think this is the first time I was on time, by the way. Okay. Hey, but like,
Yeah. So we do have a few questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. So I can either read them off and you guys take them, or if you guys can see the Q&A, you can take them as they come in. But
yep.
I'll just
So
ask
we
this
can,
one first because it was there. But how
okay.
quickly can Sparks be deployed to my organization? Someone asked.
Um, uh, Again, like I would think like Sparks can be deployed within the hour that like Steve was talking about. Obviously, it is going to depend on your particular organization's uh, need. If it is something very similar to like what Steve was talking about, then it can be done like very, very quickly. But if you want to add like a lot of other bells and whistles or like you have special needs, we are still talking in terms of days. We are not talking in terms of months. So Sparks can be deployed very, very quickly. But please, I do not like to say something and not follow up. The deployment is one thing, but like validation of what your product does and how whether you're satisfied with that, that will take time. Okay, there is no magic bullet around that. We can do a lot of validation in terms of the technology, but from an end user experience, you really need those end users to experience that and give you feedback so that like you can be confident and you can take it out to the world. So it is very, very quick to get started with, but it does have its own time scale in terms of like the validation portion of it.
All right. Well, whoever asked that question, I hope Raghu answered it well. And I'm sure you did, but I hope it answers it. Um, Question for Steve. I understand you guys are going live in some time. So what ROI are you expecting out of it? And how will you measure ROI/AI adoption?
Wow, that's a really great question. So financially, we probably won't be, I'll say that's a big gray area, but the big win for us is creating a collaboration environment for the teams. And so we'll measure it most in engagements. So the more engagements that we can get via the collaboration platform that hopefully the portal, evolves into, that'll be success for us.
Great.
And
Thank you.
Steve, if I may add, right, like I have had experience on both sides. Like when I was part of Sarita, we were part of your cohort at that time, right? Like, and there were a lot of times where like you would go in and say, "Hey, I want to know about others," because like there is that bond between the cohorts, and like you can get more information, right? I want to know more, but
Yeah.
like I always had that question, but like I didn't know. I mean, like my only connections were with contacts that I knew or like coming to like conferences, and those don't go all the way. Something, if I had something like this, and then like
Yes.
it would have made a big difference for us, definitely.
Yes, yeah, most definitely. And we see that too, Regu. If you think about solutions, solutions deployed out in the marketplace, it's never just one company providing the
Exactly.
end-to-end solution, right? And
Exactly.
so we've seen tremendous opportunity for the various members of our cohorts to get together to jointly,
Mhm.
provide a solution. So that's the end game.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you both. What sort of databases can your solutions connect to? I think that will go to
Um, we can connect to all. By the way, we support both structured and unstructured. Okay, and we can connect to any of the relational databases and all the major ones that are branded, major ones that we connect to. But giving you an exhaustive list, whoever asks, like if you can just type back in saying that okay, these are the things that I'm interested in, I can just say yes or no to that. But if you want more information about that or like the exhaustive list, you can reach out into our website or like contact any one of us and we will be able to like let you know.
Thank you. How does Sparks keep sensitive data secure when connecting across multiple systems?
A pretty good question, very good question, actually, right? Like, okay, so one of the things that we do is like the sensitive data is sensitive, or the way it is classified as sensitive is that like it's only available for a certain level of people. And those that level is defined by the access privilege that they have on that particular set of data, right? And it has nothing to do with like the levels in the organization. They can be completely different. They are most of the time disjointed too. You do not want your exec team to know everything about what is happening in Jira. Okay, that's never a good thing. So like it is all the same things, right? Like, okay, where do you want to draw the line? And there are two ways we have been doing that. The first one is we provide a very robust granular RBAC functionality inside our platform. You can use our platform and say hey, that like, okay, when Steve logs into the platform, not onto our platform, when Steve logs into the chatbot would know that like Steve logged in. And then at that point, like it knows that like, okay, what kind of data does Steve have access to? And for that, we do have to like connect back into the access profile. And the data needs to be, first of all, curated in such way. So we cannot make a regular data sensitive. So when a data is sensitive, it means that like somebody on Steve's organization has set up a system in place where like Steve can access it and others in his organization cannot access it, right? Then we consume that policy. And when we consume that policy and tied with our own RBAC functionality, then we can actually like implement it and impose it onto the end data apps too. Okay, it's not always easy. This is definitely one of those things that like we struggle with when it gets like really really complicated. But um, I think like in that journey of having a perfect solution for this, we are at we have crossed that boundary of 75. Okay, which is good for like a lot of mid-tier large organizations, small organizations too. But when we get into the other side of the picture is where it gets really really complicated, because it is not, the policy is not defined by something. The policy has to be derived, and like you need to know that like a document, it can be sensitive, and now you have to start acting on it. So that is a different level, and we are not talking about that as part of the Sparx, but we have solved it as part of the Unify too. And the other thing that I want to talk about when it comes to sensitive data and security is that one is like the sensitive data, that is the data itself. The second one is who has access. Now there was an earlier question about databases, right? We are connecting to databases, creating those things that continuously update things. Now who has access to those credentials? How is our platform built? And these are the things that we take very very seriously. We have all the certifications that you would think of us to have and more, especially because we have started in the federal landscape, and there to get deployed into any of these things, like they put you through a ringer to actually get there. So we do have a very very good security posture on our platform, and because of all the things that we have both in terms of the SSOs, the RBACs, and consuming others policy, we can actually extend that into the data apps, which is what Sparx is.
All right, thank you. And I think we're gonna kind of wrap up this webinar, wrap up this session. So thank you all for joining us and attending. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Raghu. Thank you, Khasm, AI Squared, everyone in between. Major collaborative effort. So thank you all. And we do have that giveaway, and we will announce or reach out to the person who has become that lucky one for the Apple Watch after this webinar. We will not be doing a live reveal, but if there's any last words anyone wants to say, by all means, of course. But thank you.
Steve, do you want to close it out?
Yeah, I'll just close it out. I appreciated Raghu's enhancement of my scenario. I approach this as the user. I'm the end user, and I'll just say, of course, it's the whole duck on the pond analogy where the duck looks calm, but the legs are moving underneath, and that's understood. I will say though, from a user standpoint, just being very greedy at this point. It's an easy solution to get going with. and the team has been extremely collaborative with us. Finding a use case, I am convinced, for virtually anyone will not take long. In our case, it took less than an hour just for that part. And so and when I say that there was an hour to put this thing up, that meant the work involved to put it up. There were a couple meetings ahead of time, so I suppose we have to include that too. But the use case meeting, if I remember right, Raghu, was also similarly short. Like we said, here's what we want to do, and the team got it and said, okay, sure, yep. What are your data sources? And off we went. So it was a delightful experience. As things, there of course there was a hiccup or two, but the team's been really responsive. So we just had an awesome experience as an end user, and recognizing that, yeah, there's the legs are churning underneath the duck, but
It's
but
always
from
it's
an
always
end
the
user
case.
standpoint, we're delighted. So I just want to thank the team and leave it there.
And the pleasure is ours, Steve. Thanks for being a great partner. Okay.
All right, thank you all. If you have
Everyone.
any questions, please reach out to any one of us. But yeah, I'll let you guys have 1 minute. But thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Take
Bye.
care. Goodbye.